Hey, how's it going? We are taking a look at government spending. In particular, we're taking a look at since some of those governments currently going to be at least looking to increase their targets and particular spending when it comes to military budgets. I personally believe most of those countries are going to be looking to increase about 2% when it comes to updating or improving their defenses, right? So it's going to be about 2%. If anything, myself, is something about myself, I would like to bring more people's attention. When it comes to some of that spending, perhaps it should be spent at least 2% should be spent on research and development when it comes to improving some of those economies up there, as well as better use of the capital. But that's my personal understanding when it comes to that. I have covered number one's place right now. I don't know how accurate some of that information is. But either way, so if anything, I'm going to be taking a look at history and some of those countries have that. Currently, taking a look at South Korea and the way how second place when it comes to research and development spending and some of those countries and how some of those countries performing, right? Let's delve a little bit deeper in history and some of the reasoning and perhaps why some of those governments decided to spend more when it comes to research and development. Let's take a look at some of those articles, right? But some information might not be most up to date. Information might be accurate, but perhaps it won't be very up to date when it comes to some of those figures, right? The Republic of Korea has become a benchmark for successful economic development between 97 and 2013. GDP per capita growth from $255, right? So it was something that at the time in 1970 in South Korea, that from there it progressed to 25,975. So a large increase of 100-time increase, if anything. Some of the top economists of there and how those economists performing, right? Driven by strong manufacturing and industrial capitalization, then it's turned into one of the Asia's economic tiger. Among the many factors contributing to this success story is the country's commitment to technological progress and to developing an education skill labor force. Today, the Republic of Korea, let's call it South Korea, right? Let's call it that since there's two Koreas, is the only nation to have transformed itself from the major recipient of foreign aid into a major donor. So overall, that was some of the turns, and if anything, how those turns happen in the first place. However, the government recognized that this remarkable economic growth is no longer sustainable. Global competition with China and Japan is intense. Exports are slipping, and the global demand for green growth has altered the balance. In addition to rapidly aging population and declining birth rates, it's one of the worst for whatever reason, right? But either way, I don't know if you would ask me the okay, so within this video, it's not perfect. If anything, it's not definitely not perfect. Perhaps, but whatever reason, right? A rapid aging population and declining birth rates threaten Korea's long-term economic development. So perhaps they not necessarily the best when it comes to aging population, but when it comes to research and development, right? The overall government is performing very well. Middle income households are struggling to make ends meet in the face of staggering wages. There are signs of evidence social distress. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development reports that Korean divorce rate has doubled in recent years, and that is suicide rate is the highest of any members within different organizations, the trade organizations. The time has come from alternative development models. So it's, if anything, I mean, I understand what is constant competition and can some of those backlash and what can lead to, especially if South Korea is looking to compete against China or other places in Asia like Japan. I'm gonna link more information to this article for people who are interested to understand a little bit better, there is complete breakdown of based on history and projections for the future of how South Korea thinks and what South Korea's strategy is when it comes to allocation of capital and how we're looking to work within different areas. I can cover some details, but either way, there would be so much information that I personally believe would be very important for large groups of people who are looking to understand some of those economists and how and why those economists might be performing that well, right? There is very high competition to say the least. It's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone, but there are some governments out there, right? Some of those areas and the way how they would be interested in breaking down the budget when it comes to allocation of capital. And if we were to take a look at 100% of entire budget, that would be 5% of GDP allocated to research and development. And some of those areas where they would be looking, at least in the past, 2017, where the targets would be set and how this government would look to improve some of those areas, right? That would be the generation of 5G, advanced materials, environmental friendly automobiles, as well as personal drug treatments, bioships for disease diagnosis, stem cell technology, robotic technologies, clean and comfortable environment, high energy efficient buildings, social disaster prevention and or response, food safety evaluation and enhancement, solar energy, space launch vehicles, and so on. But overall, that would be key areas where this government set targets for themselves. If you can see the same trend, that would be high-end manufacturing and or advanced manufacturing, and some of those products and services would require a very high level of skill, if that makes sense. So this is not necessarily that's very sustainable. They might spend a lot of time and energy developing some of those technologies, and they would purchase something that can be considered a low-cost commodity. So that makes sense. So this government would focus on very high-end, and they would purchase something that perhaps relatively cheap commodities that could be produced locally or perhaps domestically from other markets. That makes sense. They would purchase that where they would sell very or perhaps very high end things, right? So that would be overall strategy. At least that's the way how I'm seeing things. Yourself, if you're interested in learning more, I have published a journal. Within this journal, I'm taking a look at different areas. Some of those areas how it would be how to tackle every single day and how to focus on building routines from those progressing into habits ideally that will last. Within this journal, I would highly recommend to work from cover to cover. That would be enough time to build a habit. Hopefully, something that you can work constantly every single day in order to achieve some of those targets that you set for yourself. If anything, how to become more effective when it comes to going through the process, right? While you're doing that, I would highly recommend to focus every day or see every day as a window, 24-hour window, and some of those areas highlighted within this journal that you yourself should identify and understand and complete every single day or bring your attention to, to say the least, if you are just starting out. From there, slowly progress into more challenging areas. You can find it in QR code in the corner or company's website below. If anything, let's finish and finalize with some of those projects there, right? And something what's happening in South Korea. If anything, there are a lot of investments made within South Korea where they look into build data centers. Singapore's sovereign wealth fund called GIC teams up with Korean institutional investors to establish a massive data center in Korea's city, Gayong. Gayong provenance, it's 900 billion won, it's that equals to about 705 million. Is there's investment made to build a data center, and potentially this particular investment when it comes to data farming and processing, they are projecting that this kind of investment would yield roughly about 10% returns on the investment when it comes to collecting data and using that data for whatever case might be, selling, using, optimizing, delivering, training, whatever case there maybe they're looking to collect as much data as possible. And there's a lot of investments made within the country. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.